What else?
Next question is from Kai. He says, on the topic of clubs, how can you be charismatic in a club when the music is so loud? So loud that you can't talk literally at all.
Yeah.
Great question.
In a club, is it all based on aesthetics? And how can a mildly attractive guy be charismatic, especially if they're not loud?
Great question.
That's a great. You want me to start?
Yeah. Go ahead. You're the expert.
I was the expert. I haven't been to a club. It's probably been 3 years.
We were the experts.
Yeah, since
the mighty have fallen.
So let me go back in my brain here.
Well, the one thing is your nonverbals can be charismatic.
Well, and that's, I think, the nice thing about a club is that there is this strange separation. Like when you're out in public, you feel weirdly more connected. Everything that you do can be expected to have a greater effect on the people around you. But when you're in a club and you start doing this,
he's fist pumping for people that can't see.
Yeah, like very few people will notice or even see.
Yeah.
If you go to the dance floor and dance crazy, you're in this mob of people. So the first thing to do is to loosen up your nonverbals, become much more comfortable being a loud nonverbal person. And so that means the first thing that we would almost always do when we were in a club is walk to the dance floor and like spin like a helicopter, like do weird, goofy things.
I tried to dance as large as possible. And I would, these are nightclubs in New York City at the time, so touching was totally acceptable as long as it was shoulder touch or someone you were talking to. I touched everyone. Every guy I said hi to, every person I was friends with, every person I was introduced to was getting a hug, a high five, some sort of big touching to go along with my big dancing. So I was noticeable from a distance, which meant that when I started a conversation with you, that was not the first time you had seen me. The first time you had seen me was probably picking up a guy friend and spinning him around, dancing, hugging a girl. You saw that. You know, I was noticeable from a distance, and that made the actual conversation a lot easier.
And so what happened then is that when Ben would speak, or I would speak to someone, we weren't up against that same, I can't hear you, I'm tired of this. Like this person was now interested in putting in the effort, even though it was loud, to hearing Ben speak or me speak.
I also was having a ton of fun, and I think that was apparent. So oftentimes they would want to talk to me. And so by the time I went up to talk to them, they were excited to engage with me because I appeared to be having more fun than everyone else there. And so by interacting with me, they could get sucked into this fun vortex as well. So they would be welcoming to the approach.
And you said fun. This is the other big shift, is that say you're at a house party, conversation will very quickly go to longer, this is what I do for work and I really enjoyed XYZ because.
Great point.
So it's going in an attempt to understand the individual and connect with them on a very, specific and personal level. In the club, your first interactions necessarily need to be more impersonal and more fun driven. So when somebody asks you your job in a one-on-one setting, you might joke around, but you're going to tell them very quickly. When somebody asks you, wait, what are you doing here? Recognize that you can't possibly effectively communicate your job there. So be playful, right? So we would make up all sorts of different things. It asked where we were from. We would say that we were from different countries that we couldn't possibly have been from, right? We'd put on fake accents that everybody instantly would tell weren't real, but we would play with them, right? And we would be so not literal, which is very different from our interactions here, where I take your question, I answer it at face value, literally. That's the other thing to consider, is that you are not going to connect with someone in the first 5 minutes at a club.
Honestly, not until you have built up enough rapport that you can go to a quieter part of the club.
Exactly.
Which is what we do. A half hour in, we go, hey, do you want to step outside, have a real conversation?
Yeah. And then at that point, then it's so who are you? Like what like why are you here? What's going on in your life? What do you enjoy doing? Then all of the stuff that you're used to from other styles of interaction you can do in a club. But you need to get that person interested in spending time with you away from are you more interesting than the blazing lights, that really super cool DJ? And the answer is only yes after 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes of
dancing
and being more silly and fun and having then you're worth stepping away from all the thing that they got dressed up and paid money to be part of. But when you try to connect and talk to them, you're instantly duller than all of the other attractions in that club. So that's the other thing. And what I should say is if this isn't appealing to you, don't try to meet people in clubs. You don't have to do this. You ask, can a moderately attractive person do this? Absolutely. Wear suspenders. That's another thing that I don't. This was great 3 to 5 years ago. Who knows today? But an article of clothing that stands out, that gives someone the excuse to come speak to you. So Ben and I will be on the dance floor. We're doing our crazy thing. We're talking to our buddies. A girl will see that. She won't know how to approach me in a club. It's awkward. But she can come up and grab the suspender and go, why are you wearing these?
Sure. And also, you're a good-looking guy. But even
Thanks, Ben.
I'd say more than mildly good-looking. Above mildly good-looking. But even if you weren't, fashion will carry you a long way in a club. And that's not just suspenders. But if you walk into a club in jeans and a black V-neck, and you look around, and everyone is in jeans and a black V-neck, what have you done to differentiate yourself in the eyes of strangers that you want to talk to?
Yeah.
Nothing. So if your goal when you go to the club is to talk to strangers and be attractive to them, you have to do something to stand out in a positive way. So I'm not talking about wearing a fuzzy top hat. I'm saying nice fitted suit, a vest and a tie. You know, we used to go out and in vests and ties and stuff like that. Or we'd go out, and even in Vegas, there would be a bachelorette party, and they'd have a bunch of these $1 boas. And we'd say, can I have this? And they'd say, sure. And you put on the boa. And then for the rest of the night, you got this stupid fake feather boa that it gives someone who doesn't know what to say to you something to grab onto, ask about to begin a Sure, but
conversation.
I wouldn't recommend going out with a
No,
boa.
we never brought our own boas.
What I would recommend to this person though is find people, go to the club, look around, and who strikes you as cool. You know nothing about these people. Who do you look at and go, oh, that guy's cool? You just made a thin slice, Malcolm Gladwell term, where you assumed that person was cool based on what they were wearing. Go buy those clothes. What thin slice are you putting out? And I mean, this is going to sound obvious. The majority of people there are wearing the same
I would
thing.
like to blend in. Yeah.
Yes. The majority of people there are wearing the most average clothing they can wear. Don't do that if your goal is to be attractive.
Yeah. It's funny, just a little anecdote. We went to one party in DC that was a paint party. And so at a paint party, everyone has neon colors. There's no standing out. You can't be more colorful than anyone else.
Yeah, and mostly everyone shows up in white, so the paint will show up. So
The
it's like,
paint-
oh, I'm in white pants and a white shirt, just like everyone else.
So I was quitting my job. I was fed up, and I had these extra suits. So I put on a suit, and I went to this paint party and stood out like crazy. You know what I mean? Like people were like, what are you wearing? What are you doing? So the idea that Ben had said is, what stands out in a fun, interesting, positive way is different in every circumstance.
Yeah.
Wearing a suit to my job, I just had the lamest suit in the office.
Yeah.
Wearing a suit to the paint party, I was the only person that was crazy enough to destroy their cheap little suit at a paint party. And then the thing that I mentioned, I want to say again, you don't have to meet people in clubs. I think there's this weird idea that the only place for young people to meet a significant other is at a bar or a club, and it's just not true. If it's not for you and you don't want to adopt any of this, you don't have to. There's other venues to meet and connect with people.
Simultaneously, I would have said clubs weren't for me, and then I started doing the stuff we described and had a ton of fun.
Yeah.
So
You can have a lot more fun. Cool.